Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I was looking at some trade rumors that the Lakers have going on in regards to the Orlando Magic. He's got Terrence Ross on the table. Now, I know that Gary Harris is also available, but I looked at his salary, and he's making $20 million this year. Gary Harris making $20 million this year? Are you serious? Anyway, that's what's going on there. So, you can needless to say, the Lakers are not interested in Gary Harris. But Terrence Ross is making $12 million, and I tried the trade machine, and it allowed me to do Kendrick Nunn and THT. So that's what you would have to give up to get Terrence Ross. Now, I do like Terrence Ross a lot. He's instant offense. And I'm not really familiar with him on the defensive end, so I really can't say I'm familiar with what he can do on that side. But I remember when what his skill level is. At this point, he's a well-oiled machine, as I like to say, a good offensive scorer, stretching the floor, streaky kind of guy. Another type of Malik Monk type of guy who's a little more developed this stage in his career. More of a win now piece. So I like Terrence Ross. I think he would help us a lot. I think that value is a bit much for him, in my opinion. But if they sweeten it up, maybe give us a pick, some type of pick or some type of cash considerations to make the numbers work, I might consider it. I think the thing about it for me is I'm a bit higher on THT than to just give him up in a deal for Terrence Ross, of whom I think is a good player. But I just think that the upside of THT may be able to net me something a little better than that. If I sweeten it up properly. So I'm probably going to pass on that deal as a GM. Probably going to pass on that. I think trading Kendrick Nunn is interesting because, as much as I like Terrence Ross, I also think Kendrick Nunn at his best can give me those same points that Terrence Ross gives me. Now, he's not going to stretch the floor the same way. They have different games. But the points total in their best game, it's going to be pretty good. They're going to give us 30 points, both of those players. So when you consider that THT does the same, and with his metrics, his long arms, his ability to steal the ball, his upside, the Lakers should not ultimately do that deal, I think. You understand trying to get win-now pieces. It doesn't mean you don't trade THT, but you make damn sure well that you're getting back something that will not decrease in value with you. See, that's the point. I can't say that I'm sure that Terrence Ross is going to ascend in value as a Laker. Now, it doesn't mean that he has to go down the tubes or that it's impossible for him to do so. He can certainly get better as a Laker. But with what we know about our offense, players coming here playing a little worse, with what we know about who's going to ultimately get all the shots on this team, you just want to know that you're utilizing Terrence Ross the most possible way. And given the uncertainty of our circumstances, given the fact that it looks like the Lakers are maybe moving on from Frank Vogel, it's possible they'll be doing that very soon. You just don't know what you're going to be running. So in bringing in a piece like Terrence Ross, you want to make sure that you're getting the most for his value. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I did believe I saw that was a 2-year deal. So I think that's how that went. I don't believe his contract is expiring. So that would be also something you take into consideration as a Laker. But, all in all, if we did this deal, I think it would help our team. I think we'd be a better team just because I think Terrence Ross is a guy who can really come in and score the ball a lot. And I also think that THT has a long way to go before he's as consistent as we want him to be. Now, he's been playing some good ball, and the potential for him to break out or have some real good games ahead is very much possible, but he also tends to hurt the team with some of his young player mistakes. So if you were to assume those mistakes are going to continue and that they may be a detriment to you winning games this season, then maybe you don't mind moving on from him. But ultimately, you'll look up, and like with Brandon Ingram, like with all these other players that we've given up, you'll wish you still kept him later on. And that's something Laker fans, I think we get that. We've seen it so much. I don't know why. We've seen it with just as recently as Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was horrible with us last year. Now he's, going off, having a fantastic year in Washington. So it's like, after seeing this so much as a Laker fan, you kind of are wary about giving up a young player just because he's not playing well in your offense. So I think the reality is, though, the trade tracker looking at our team once again reminded me of why we have so many players on this team that aren't really able to give us anything. It's because they're all making $1.2 million each. And then you look at the top of our franchise, of course, as I discuss every day, and you see Russell Westbrook's contract, you see LeBron James' contract, you see Anthony Davis's contract, you see THT's contract, DJ's contract. Those are all contracts that you'd rather not have, particularly those big three that really eat up everything. So it's like, it's all we could get. Now, I personally think we could have gotten better, more capable $1.2 million guys. Maybe instead of going old for 1.2, maybe you go for upside or even G League with 1.2, and that way you can find players who can ascend in value in your system, and then you can flip midway for a player that may fit what it is you do, and eventually by the end of the year you have that same amount of salary but more capable basketball players. I think that's what I wanted to see from my GM. It's like you can get me, because see, I can think of those G League guys that I wanted on this team, and they would have been fine. They would have given us more than Trevor Ariza. They would, we got Stanley Johnson. You can find more guys like that in the middle of the season, but in the meantime, you just need to make sure the meat of your team is not a detriment to your team. And while you want to go experience and things of that nature, at the end of the day, if you're grabbing players that literally don't have anything left, you're going to get blown out. So it would be better to bring in your Trevelyan Queens, some of these guys that we had earlier on, your Sean D. Browns, and let them play those roles. Keep the guys that we let go of, Giannis's brother. Those are guys that should be on those 1.2s. And that way our team could then trade those guys for second round picks if they start to ascend in talent, and you give more roles to guys like Austin Reeves, who would have more prominent roles, and then young guys behind them, and then those top three guys ultimately being really, really, really strong for you or not. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. But because we have so many guys that can't do nothing, and a big three that's not healthy, it's like you're getting blown out every night. And then your coach don't know what to do with him because he is who he is. So it's like a plethora of a lot of things that have gone wrong. And I just look at it and say, oh, that's what it was. It was the choice to go old and not instead just go with bodies that are capable. Go with bodies that are capable, because at the end of the day, you're top three heavy, so it doesn't really matter who you keep at the back of your bench. But as it pertains to your organization, it definitely does, because you need value, especially since you've given up picks. So this is a philosophy issue. This is a GM issue. And that's what I see there, and that's what we've been talking about. It's just Laker philosophy to go old because those old guys would take $1.2 million was just the wrong decision, because their bodies couldn't do anything for you. Yeah, their minds could, help with coaching on the floor and help with the overall chemistry of the team, because you would have people that would get along with one another, people who can relate to LeBron James, who are his age. But that kind of crap doesn't translate to wins on a basketball floor. That kind of stuff only helps you on a superficial level, because you're still sitting there with your buddies being embarrassed. Y'all can't enjoy wine when y'all 500 in January. You would be better if it was just them top three heavy dudes and a bunch of Trevelyan Queen type dudes, a bunch of, Antetokounmpos, bro, and you would just get more out of your team. And then the youngsters that we have, as I said, would have more prevalent roles, as to which they would thrive in, because they're thriving with the minutes they're given. So I don't think that's not undoable right now. Waive them dudes. Waive them dudes. Like those 1.5s. No, get them out of here. Waive them. And then do what it is that I'm saying. Get some of them G League dudes up here and make them have those roles on our team. AD's going to be back. You got Malik Monk. You got Austin Reeves. You got THT. You got, some of these other guys that we do have in our roles that we can deal with. Not all the 1.2 guys are unplayable. Avery Bradley's still playable. We got some guys that we can still use. But your Trevor Ariza's, nah, the homie got to go, man. I think, and I'm not mad at Wayne Ellington. And all things considered, he's actually a good guy to have at 1.2. He's hitting shots still. So it's like, you just don't want him to have such a important role. You just don't want your coach starting that guy. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't have him now and then. But there are a couple 1.2 guys that need to be replaced with G League guys who can fit the body types of what it is that we need. A center, a power forward, a wing with long arms. I'm telling you, I keep mentioning Trevelyan Queen because he literally was what we needed. A long arm wing that could defend. So, and shoot threes. I just think that the Lakers for, you know, kind of forgo logic as it pertains to putting this team together for politics. And I just think that they're suffering for it. We, as fans, are paying for it. So, yeah, it is what it is, man. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. This Terrence Ross trade is a byproduct of us not having value in other areas. You know, and the fact of the matter is, we could couple up all those 1.5 guys and put them together. And, of course, they only make up $5 million. So you have to give up THT. You have to give up Kendrick Nunn just to get value players. When the reality is, all you had to do was start the year off properly, put some of them G League dudes in a position to get some decent minutes, and they would be good enough to get you Terrence Ross in some ways if you only attach maybe THT rather than giving up your mid-level exception to do it. You would have a couple of those guys you can throw at Orlando or throw at this team to get a trade exception or throw at that team to get a second-round pick that you can maybe flip and do something else with. That's what it's about. You just got to be imaginative and you got to have flexibility. And if you don't have flexibility, you have to be willing to scout. And that's what the Lakers were not doing. They didn't want to use our great scouts' advice on what players they wanted to bring in to use to do this. We had some good ones. We let them go. And that's the reality of it. That's what I see out there. So, hey, that's why your team sucks, everybody. That's why you can't hardly get nobody without giving up stuff you don't want to give up. So, that's it. Hopefully we learned that lesson and we can undo that. Maybe get, you know, use the $2 million trade exception that we got from Rondo, which is right down there for us. Try to help us as well, get some players and stuff. You know, it is what it is. I personally think I can make the team better. I look around and I say, okay, there's some players that you can get out there. But at the end of the day, if LeBron and those guys and Melo and those guys want to play with their homies who happen to be just, you know, as old as them, then GM and everybody else just have to sit there and take it, fans included. So that's where we're at. That is where we're at. So anyway, that's my little rant for the day attached to this, of course, trade rumor information. And this Laker fan is tired. I am tired of them. I'm tired of my franchise. I just feel like the philosophy, our very philosophy, is backwards. And that's been my message for the last couple of days. BDF44, thank y'all for watching.